Let's see. I'm age 63, so you be the judge.
I think you're scheduled to see me next week.
I forgot.
But I've already made the diagnosis.
So what I have to say is highly numerical, very complex, and depressing. So only those of you age 30 or less will be able to follow me. Anyway, and more seriously, a couple of us were talking before this meeting about colleagues of ours who will, of course, remain nameless. We think both of them are maybe in their early 70s. We think one of them, after a long career, may have some dementia, and the other one is probably depressed. And I'll come back to not to that item, but I'll come back to that a little bit later. Okay. So, what did I get from this? Well, one of the papers was in the process of being completed. Some of the information, which was terrific, I just heard. But here's some of the things that I kind of took away here. I like the idea about the fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence because I think it applies to both papers. And so this upper thing kind of helps summarize what I think I learned from these papers about different types of intelligence and what they do. So, in other words, putting the two together, you can make up for some of the decline in fluid intelligence with increased wisdom as you age. But again, there's going to be the speakers have already mentioned the sort of confounding issue, and I think that the issue of disease versus non-disease is really important here, and I think that's been pointed out. But I'd highlight that. So some of this is just simply my summary of what I think we heard and what is in the paper. The issues about cognitive decline, experience-based increase. The combination of the two and the effects. Emotions have both positive and negative effects. You can positive emotions. Is a potential lever, but on the other hand, fraudsters can play on positive emotions, and then the motivation issue. If you can get older people motivated, they'll pay attention. Otherwise, maybe not. Okay. So what are the interventions that we've heard about? I think Wandy went through some very good thoughts here, and so I just again tried to summarize. But let me jump away from this because I think you heard this. So what are some of the limitations? And that's where I want to get to. Not limitations necessarily of studies, but limitations of both interventions and what we know. Most, as the authors themselves say, most of the research is cross-sectional, not longitudinal. But we've been hearing a little bit about some efforts to do longitudinal research, which is terrific. It just takes a long time. And then I think there's a classic identification problem here. One that we've obviously seen before are effects coming from age. Are they coming from time, or are there cohort effects? And I think there's very much the case that all three are at work here. But the reason it's a classic identification problem is you've got three unknowns and sort of two measurements, and so you're never quite sure which one it is. Nevertheless, we can definitely see it. And then there's the issue that I think that Wandy was very interested in, which is hypothetical versus real world decisions. And I think there's a lot of evidence, or apparently there's a lot of evidence that hypothetical tests do predict real-world decision-making, but we want to make sure that we know that that's the case across the board. Where might that fall apart? And then the issue of self-perception versus actual effects, and we certainly heard about that from Jason. From Keith. Overconfidence and. I certainly have both very personal experience with that, including a father who managed to run through a lot of his TIAA-CREF money. So here's where I started thinking. Remember, I mentioned colleagues who had who may I can't diagnose, but may have disease, and I think that's the huge issue here. Is how do you distinguish in terms of policy? So let's think about policies, whether it's an employer policy, a plan sponsor, plan provider policy, a public policy, whatever it is. How do you distinguish in policymaking between disease and non-disease? You've got a population, and what does that mean? And how do because given what we think we've heard, you might want to actually make that differentiation, because if what we've heard is right, we can trust more the abilities and the judgments of people who aren't diseased. Maybe not completely, but there's the slope of the decline is much less. Whereas if you can diagnose disease, then you should probably be much more concerned. So what does that mean from a policy sense? Are we going to keep testing everyone? Is there going to be the old person's SAT, and you got to pass it? Otherwise, if you don't, then we're going to start telling you what to do, and we're going to take your choice away from you. Well, I'm being silly, but you get the point. What do you do about that? Because there's so much to distinguish there. And I think the result is, in a way, for policy-making purposes, maybe not for research purposes, but for policy-making purposes, I think the result is confusing, because the point is within group variance bigger than age group variance, right? If you look at the population, you see the charts that Keith put up, the Z-scores, the variance is pretty huge. Right, and so how do you make public policy for that? Without doing the old person's SAT, and then and because we're trying to protect people against things like fraud or their own self-destruction, what do you do? And I think that's a real set of issues. What I get led to is how much individual customization do we want to do? And and that actually brings up something here, which is, I think this is, these are questions that cover all of the age spectrum, right? How financially literate is anyone at any age, but it has particularly strong importance, salience for older folks. But it is something that cuts across the age spectrum. And so you could actually ask these questions about anybody of any age, but how much individual customization? When should interventions take place? What should trigger those interventions? How much intervention? Should we nudge people, or should we require certain things? I think that where I get to on this is the automation. One of the things that's been shown to be extremely effective, if you listen to Jack Vanderhei and a lot of other people, is automation. In other words, automatic enrollment, automatic escalation, automatic allocations, target date funds. But that's all for accumulation, right? So shouldn't we be thinking in a policy sense about automating the older part of life? And in fact, we don't do a very good job of that. We sort of, all the things that I mentioned are for accumulation. What should we be doing after, well, I don't know, you pick the year, certainly after 63, to audit? Should we be automatically defaulting people, oh God forbid, into annuities? So that I'll just leave you with that one, because I think that is something that makes a lot of sense. You can get, if you have an annuity, you can do bad things with your monthly paycheck, but you can't take the whole corpus and destroy it, for example. So I think that's the simplest over age 63 thing I'll leave you with, is think about automatic defaults applied to payout and other financial decisions that old people need to make. I also really want to applaud the authors for great presentations, clearly done, even for people like me.